Gonna go straight in.
Yeah.
All right. So good evening, guys.
Hi.
Hope
Good
everybody
evening.
hope everybody is doing well. Right. So guys, welcome to Love Collective. We are here with Alf and Esther.
Yes.
This is the Art of Communication part 22. And wow, we're going to be talking about the breakdown in communication. Many of you obviously know that we've been talking about the art of communication for the past 22 episodes. So if you've missed anything or you want to, catch up in any way, if this is the first time that you've logged on, please go to our YouTube page, which is Two Love Collective, and literally just binge, catch up. Everything has been titled, so if you're interested in anything specific, you can just click on it and listen to what we have to say. So today we have, like I said, we've got Alf and Esther. They're a very good friend of ours, known Esther for quite some time.
Yes.
And Alf indirectly. But yeah, so we wanted to really talk to them about breakdown in communication and what that means for them as a couple. And I know they're going to share some powerful stuff and a little bit about themselves as well.
Yes.
So yes, guys, over to you.
Yes, guys. So I guess the question is that we need to ask you is, what does a breakdown in communication mean to you guys? What would you like to share about what happened with your marriage?
Okay, a breakdown in communication. I guess that happens when you feel as though you're not getting anywhere, whether it be a disagreement or a discussion, or you feel like you're not being heard. And I guess that breakdown in communication is also a part of trying to protect yourself, because you're feeling disappointed. And in order to protect yourself, you think, well, I won't say anything. And then by not saying anything, you're withholding yourself, you're withholding information, you're therefore not sharing. Maybe you might miss a meal, or something that you would normally do together. You kind of begin to withdraw yourself.
Right.
So I think that's the beginning of the breakdown. The silent treatment.
Yes. I love that because we covered the silent treatment for a couple of weeks and we were trying to get to the bottom of it. Is that a revenge strategy? Is it a tit for tat? Are you trying to get back at the person because you're hurting in some way? But I love the way that you described it. There were some key words that you said there, like the withdrawal, and it's the protection, because you feel like you're actually hurt. You can't get anywhere with communicating. You can't see eye to eye, so then you start going your separate ways, as you said. So not sitting down to have a meal together, and it starts with the smallest of things, the things that you would have been together on. They now automatically start to be the things that you you consider. I could miss that.
It's not important.
Exactly, and they lose their weight that they would have normally. You wouldn't even have considered that. That's crazy. I like what you just shared.
But I also think what's important as well is like understanding that it's not always that you're hurt. Sometimes it's just you're just frustrated.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
That's good.
Because a lot of times it's not the emotion of hurt is not always where it is. Sometimes it is, but I think for me anyway, personally, it's not so much about me being hurt. A lot of times it's that I'm just frustrated because either I can't get something out, or I want to say something, but I can't say something because it's gonna hurt you.
That's powerful.
Do you get what I'm saying? And so it's not that I'm hurt, I'm just frustrated because actually I want to tell you this thing because I think that it would help, but I know that it's also going to hurt. So what do you do when something you want to say is going to help, but it will also hurt? So I think
that's powerful. And I think even going back to what you just said, when I think about it, it's because you love the person that you don't want to hurt them with what you turn around and say. And at the same time, although you're almost hurting yourself now by holding it in.
That's what I said.
Because you feel like you haven't got the outlet. But yeah, I get it. So wow. So how did it happen for you guys? What did you find that you did?
How have you kind of tackled it?
Well, I guess you have to kind of face up to being honest with each other. That's always a hard thing. I think there's a difference between being honest and just saying whatever you feel.
Right.
Yeah, and saying whatever you think is right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Being honest is something different. You know, you can be saying something that you think is really truthful, but it can be quite spiteful. And it can be quite vindictive. And that's not really the same as being honest.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Your emotions
So being
out.
honest is about you're really facing yourself first, what you really feel, what you really think, and then you're gonna have a chat with your husband or your wife about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't. I'm not saying that you might not even notice the breakdown in communication.
Exactly.
But when you're honest, then you'll realize that something's up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you'll realize that something's up and that something has to be done. Hopefully, it won't. Arguments are horrible, but at the end of the day, it's a good sign as well to say something needs to be done. It's a good time to say we need to sit down and we need to talk and we need to tell each other what needs to be said.
Yeah.
So in our marriage, like Alf's a very open person because of the type of relationship he has with his mom, with his brothers. He's got no sisters. So they're very strong. They're very direct. And when I first got married, so I was only 21 when I got married.
Okay.
So I was quite young. I was quite an introvert, very quiet, very overly polite. I didn't know how to speak my mind.
Right.
And so communication in marriage was so difficult because you want to be honest, but you can't find the words. So when Alf is being honest, I'm taking that as spite. Like, he's being horrible. Why is this happening to me?
Powerful.
And so it's a process. It's a journey. It's taken a long while. We've been married. This year is going to be 32 years in August.
Wow.
So
congrats, guys.
Congratulations.
32. Yeah.
32 years.
Amazing.
You know what? I can't count.
It's 31. It's 31 years.
I'm counting on the years.
It's 31 years.
I added on an extra year.
It's because of the lockdown. The lockdown has thrown us.
That was one too.
The lockdown. We're missing a year from the lockdown.
Wow, 31 years. Congratulations,
amazing,
guys.
That's amazing.
So, you know, a lot of it is trial and error and being patient with one another, because I think when you're married so young, you're learning about life, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about how marriages work, and you really can't base it on anyone else. Although you might have lots of positive role models around you, you know, you're two unique people that have come together. And so you've got to find your rhythm. You've got to find your pattern, you know?
Yeah, so, and your expectations, because you're young and you're inexperienced, your expectations are wild. They're like wild dreams.
Yeah. It's true.
You haven't really, it's a little bit, it is a bit like dreamland. You're not really facing what reality is. So you get married, you make some really good confessions of love, and you really, you talk about how you're going to love somebody, and you give all the statements on the day that you get married, and then afterwards your expectations get wildly bizarre in terms of you're no longer thinking about love. You're only thinking about what you want and how it should be done, and you've already forgotten that you're supposed to love your husband or your wife. You're now demanding that they meet your expectations. You've forgotten that you said you're gonna love them. You know, you've forgotten you're gonna care for them, you're gonna look out for them, you're gonna be very much interested in them. But then you're inexperienced, so you don't know how to deal with anything that goes beyond your expectation. If anything doesn't meet up to what you expected, because you've forgotten that you need to love.
Yeah, powerful. So
you're forgetting love.
Yeah.
You're only thinking of your expectation. You're only thinking of what you want, how you want it, why you want it, but you haven't taken into consideration, as Esther said, you are, in a sense, it's almost as though you're walking with your eyes closed and expecting not to bump into anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just think nothing, you're not going to bump into anything, but until you open your eyes, you're going to keep bumping into things, and in particular, you're going to keep bumping into each other.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I love what you said. That go ahead, please continue.
No, go ahead. No, it's all right.
I just think the analogy that you use is so powerful with regards to bumping into something, because the two are becoming one. You're two completely different individuals. Like Esther described, she was more introvert, more learning how to find her voice and find her expression of her emotions and her thoughts and her expectations. And like you said, Alf, when you come into the relationship, you can be quite self-centered. What I want, what makes me happy, what gratifies. So naturally it would come to bumps, it would come to a head. But instead of it feeling like this is us finding our rhythm, like what Esther said, you actually can misinterpret it as spite or misinterpret as the person, you did that on purpose. No, not at all. I'm just saying this. And I think that's the problem. Sometimes we don't have most of the times we don't have a referee in the room, somebody who is an external party to see both sides or to hear, where each other are coming from. So you're reliant on this person hearing what you said and not being clouded by whatever they are thinking in their mind already.
100%. And I think it's also, I think what we have to understand as well is that just like how we have different learning styles, we have different communication styles.
That's good.
And I think what you've been saying, Alf, essentially is that the maturity of your communication changes when you start getting married to when you get into 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Do you understand? It's continually evolving. But I love what you said about the honesty thing, because that really sticks out to me, because I think what I'm kind of sensing in terms of like when you guys first came together is that you, Alf, had a particular way that you communicated based on your upbringing, which was very direct, which was very much, this is what it is. Whereas for Esther, it was almost completely different. Whereas like that communication muscle wasn't really there as it was maybe for you. So now, like Siobhan always likes to say, you've got 21 years coming into the house of doing something one way. And then I don't know how old you were, but you're coming in with your amount of years. And it's like, you're now trying to figure out what, like, it's like you're speaking Chinese or one person speaking English. Like, what are you saying? And you're not saying anything. Say something. Do you know what I mean?
I used to get that a lot, actually. Alf would say something, he'll talk about something and he'll go into a big long spiel and it's like, over to you. And I'll be like, And I wouldn't, like, it was such a struggle to express.
See, now you can identify with the frustration.
I agree.
I guess what happens as well is you have to grow. And you have to allow yourself to grow as well. So initially you meet somebody, Esther was very quiet. Now I'm
the opposite.
It's true. She's the opposite. And I'm also able to pick up on that as well now.
That's good.
I'm able to actually understand a little bit more, not completely. I'm always a work in progress. But I can kind of pick up, maybe she's trying to tell me something. Whereas when I was younger, I was wanting to hear things, but I'm getting a little bit better. Like today, Esther was sort of giving me the hint that we're going to have this little conversation tonight. The way that Esther approached me, And she's right. I'm a person, I do talk a lot about things a lot. So Esther really approached me with, I just need a yes or a no answer. I don't need a long spiel. I don't need a long discussion. I just need a yes or no. Now, in my mind, I started thinking, right, what is Esther going to be asking me? What does she need? What does she want? What's she going to tell me? Then she told me,
okay.
And I said to her, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's up to you. I'm happy. I don't mind. I'm not, it's up to you. I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. But what I'm trying to say as well is I understood that this was something that she can't do by herself.
Right.
It's something that it's not so much that if I said no, saying no would be out of the question. Okay? It would be out of the question because, it sounds strange, but when the Bible sort of says that God said it's not good for man to be alone,
come on,
it's also the same for women. The fact that he makes a woman and brings her, that she shouldn't be alone either.
Yeah.
Come on,
right?
come on.
We lose that aspect of it. So we just say, God said it's not good for the man to be alone, but we forget that generally means that the women, they shouldn't be alone, and it's going to affect them if they are alone. And when they need us, they might not always need us, but when they do need us, we've got to be there. We can't say no.
Yeah,
because they can't be alone.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
And sometimes as guys, it's very easy for us to leave them alone or to let them be alone.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it myself that when Esther was saying to me today, I just need a yes or a no, it just had to be a yes. It couldn't be a no. That's what it wasn't so much she was pushing me into a corner or anything. She was communicating to me that this is something that is important, something that she wants to get done. She doesn't want to have a drawn out lecture about it. She doesn't want a long debate about it. She just wants a yes or a no, which means we haven't got time to we haven't got time. And that sometimes it doesn't mean that we're being impatient. It just means if your husband or your wife is telling you something, don't worry too much about whether you think you can or you can't. Just remember that you're there to be with them.
You're
there to be with your husband. You're there to be with your wife. You've only got each other.
Definitely.
You've only got each other for those moments of support, for those moments of, I'd like to do this, even if you don't want to. Even if you don't like to, still be there. Right? When Esther approached me today to say, I just need a yes or a no, I saw it more as, I just need to be there. I just need to turn up. Whether I'm prepared, whether was looking forward to it, I just had to be here and make do.
It's interesting. The scripture that comes to mind, the scripture that says your body belongs to your husband and your wife. We always people always go to the sexual side, but they don't actually realize that actually talks about companionship and being with each other. So you can call that body and say, I need you right now.
And that's it. And these are the things that people don't always talk about, but it's real. And showing up for your spouse is not always said with, I was supporting you when you had the big things. It's also with the small things. It is,
that's right.
I'll make room for you. I will change what I would have planned to do. And sometimes the plan is not anything big. It could have just been sitting down watching television or calling a friend or whatever it is. But actually making time for that person, those are the things that mean something. It's like when someone does something, you say, oh, thank you for washing up the dishes, or thank you for emptying the bin. In the same respect, thank you for doing this with me. You know, it meant something to that person just to have your body beside them. And I think, just like you said, the way that you guys have come to your point of communication, Esther's already in her mind processed, I'm going to say this, and Alf is probably going to say this, or he's going to think this, or he's going to go here. And actually, towards the end, we're still going to arrive at this end point, which is, I actually just need you to do this with me. And that's this is. And I think that what I love about what you're sharing is it takes a certain level of maturity to get and to understand how to speak the language of your spouse, to be like, okay, cool, here is what I'm presenting to you. And ultimately it is this and this. You do have a choice in the matter. But I would really appreciate if, outside of what you would like to choose, you consider it means this much to me. With that, you kind of read it between the lines. It's not what's naturally said, because she didn't say, you need to do this.
I know. And I'm hearing this, and I'm actually very impressed that he picked up on it. Because I was working, I'm up in the spare room working away, and I didn't want to forget. So I came down straight away after you called me, Siobhan, and tried to broach the subject with him. And he did more or less answer straight away. And he said yes. I was actually surprised, because he does ask a lot of questions and he didn't. But it was as I walked away that he started asking questions. Oh, is that all right with you? Did you want to do it? And I thought, here he goes with the questions. But yeah, it was good. Yeah.
That's good.
So back to the breakdown of communication. I think one of the things that I know in our marriage where we have had like breakdown in communication is like the lack of listening. Because that's a lot of times, and sometimes we listen but we don't hear. Or is it the other way around? We hear but we don't listen. That's it. So we hear but we don't actually listen. And so most of the time in our kind of widescreen view of the argument, we're just looking at our perspective. We're hearing what they're saying. I hear you, but I hear you. I don't know about you guys, but we say that a lot. I hear you, but which erases everything that was said before that anyway. So how have you guys navigated the whole kind of hearing versus listening and get into a place where you're kind of on the same page?
Well, I think it has something to do, again, it's the experience of getting to know each other over a little bit of time. So for instance, in the early days, when we first got married, you're not really hearing very much. You're kind of a little bit ignorant as well. Well, I was anyway. You're not really listening. You're not understanding your role as a friend, as a lover, as a husband, as just another person that's there. And then as you can panic. You can panic and you can think everything's going the wrong way. But if you do get to talk to each other, and especially I suppose I thought we were kind of fortunate to an extent. We did have persons that we could go to and talk to, right? So if you do have someone that you can talk to, that's helpful because it means their experience can be added to you. Their experience can be shared with you. Their experience can be, you can find out that sometimes you just think that you're all alone, but you're not.
So when we got married, we had quite a few young couples get married a year, 2 years after us. So we used to spend a lot of time together, having meals and stuff and praying and talking through issues. And thankfully, we were able to be quite transparent and help each other through. And it's amazing that when you're going through your stuff, you just feel like nobody else goes through this. Why is it happening to us? And then as you speak to people, you realize it is very common. It's one of those everyday things that people have to learn to negotiate, you know, and compromise. And, you know, sometimes you just have to let up, you know. It's not a case of who's right and who's wrong. You just give in. You give up your right to be right, you know, just for the sake of peace.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
I mean, sometimes we've been having some conversations about, you know, Jesus says, turn the other cheek, go the extra mile, pray for those who despitefully use you and persecute you. And we're very good at doing that with everybody else, but applying it to our husband or our wife, you know, it becomes, so you're like, no, it doesn't apply to you. It doesn't apply to me. You know, but when you really think about what Jesus is saying, he's really giving you that endorsement to say, you know, turn the other cheek, you know, go the extra mile. You know, think about, even if you think they're your enemy, think about them in a very different way. And if you can bring some of that to your husband or your wife or to your marriage, it's I won't say, I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's only easy when you actually do it.
It's in the doing.
If you're only thinking about it, it's really hard. If you're only looking at it, it's really hard. But if you do it, if you actually do turn the other cheek, if you actually do go the extra mile, if you actually do, you know, even when you think your husband or your wife is your enemy, if you really look to pray for them, really speak to the Lord earnestly for them, it will be actually much easier, because you're doing something that Jesus has asked you or encouraged you to do. And even if you're not a Christian or you don't believe in God, I'd still encourage you to give that a try. For your husband or your wife. I'd still encourage you to give that a try in regards to the way in which you want to love your husband or your wife. You know, the way in which you want to, you know, stay together, the way in which you want your marriage to work out. You know, forgiveness and love and compassion, all of these things are necessary for a marriage to survive.
And you know, we do have peaks and troughs. We have our good days, we have our bad days. And you know, it's learning how to give each other space. You know, if Alf comes home and he's in a bad mood, it's no use me then picking at him. You know, let him unwind, give him that chance, that space. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rather than jumping on his back. And I think sometimes it might be that, like in our younger days, we didn't allow each other to have any flaws or have, you know, it was almost like, you know, don't behave that way, you know, it's wrong. And you can't just be jumping on each other all the time. You can't. You've just got to allow that room, allow that grace, because I think we do know what's right and wrong. So in time, you know, time is a healer. But just be there waiting patiently, as opposed to being impatient and thinking the worst, you know, thinking, oh, here he goes again, he's this, he's that. That is not helpful. And even in the time when I did separate from my husband, one of the things that my family said, my cousins, my aunties, they were all very surprised, because I never moaned, I never complained, I never badmouthed my husband, so to speak. So it was very hard for them to understand what is going wrong. So I think like something that was mentioned earlier on is that when there's this breakdown in communication, sometimes it's very subtle, you don't notice it, and then it becomes common, it becomes an everyday thing, and then you begin to skip past each other, and then you're taking more time out, maybe more time at work, perhaps more time at church, perhaps more time out with your friends, you know, and it creeps up bit by bit by bit. And I think there has to be a point when you are going to be honest and say, this is not right, and we can't go on this way. We've got to find time, go out to the park, have a little picnic, but you've got to find a place where you're comfortable to talk about it. You can't ignore the elephant in the room.
That's good. That's good.
That is good. So powerful.
And I think it's funny that you've even dropped that title, The Elephant in the Room, because it was a title that I was thinking about for another episode. So it's just confirmation. But I love how you've actually shared it, because at the end of the day, it's the choice that you now make to spend that bit more time at work, or to spend that bit more time at church. You're replacing the time that would have been spent with that loved one,
or avoiding
to have that interaction with them. And I think, just going back to one of the other things that you mentioned, which I thought was really, really powerful, was the fact that although you're in your process, you're learning, you're not necessarily affording the person the grace. So yes, we are our brother's keeper, and we're the husband and wife, so we're like a mirror showing them where their faults are. But when you come home and you continually see a mirror that's critiquing you or telling you where your shortcomings are, you find that you're less likely to go and look at that mirror, because you feel like, I don't get a good report from this mirror. It's just like when you're raising a child. If that child doesn't feel the affirmation that they're doing good, and they just feel the discipline, they misunderstand that level of discipline, and they think that they're under scrutiny all the time, whereas actually the grace, and I love what you said, because if it's somebody else outside on the street, you would say, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. But then when the person's in your house in the bed next to you, you always do that. How many times do I have to say that? You're so ready to keep a list of a scorecard, a list of wrongs. And I think I just love it, because actually that can be sowing the seed of ruin into your marriage, where you're continuously feeling like, am I enjoying being around this person?
Or am I just enduring
it? Does it feel like you're getting to that? And naturally, because of those feelings, you start to say, right, well, I'm going to choose to work an extra shift, or I'm going to choose to stay late that night, or I'll take that phone call and go out with those people. Anything to avoid just being in that environment, really. Powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I want to just say as well that if you're experiencing this kind of breakdown in communication, and if you are going through that, and I'll say it from my perspective as a guy, you should also be careful about what you say and what you think and how you respond. Okay? Because when Esther wasn't there, I still had to maintain within my own mind the fact that I still wanted that marriage to work.
Powerful.
I had to still maintain for myself to say, I still love her. I still want to be there for her. And if you're experiencing that breakdown in communication, don't falter and start going the wrong way. In terms of, oh, I don't love you anyway. I don't miss you anyway. There's plenty more fish in the sea. I would encourage you, from the man's perspective, just broaden your shoulders. Get into a much better stance, and irrespective of whether you are the failure, whether you're not up to standard, you're not up to the spec that your wife, just don't throw in the towel. Just like that.
Good, that's good.
If the communication isn't working, if the communication's to the point where you're not even in the same home, even if you're considering a divorce, as Jerome was saying at the beginning, don't look to that. Just hold on, in terms of just maintain a stance of love, even from a distance. It might sound strange. Don't go out with girls. Don't mess around with. Keep your path as clear as you can, because it's only the communication that's the problem.
That's good.
Don't add anything more to that. All right. And even though it's difficult, And even though that sounds, but you just want to get on with your life, that is not, it's the communication that you're trying to reestablish. So the space, the time, will you be rewarded for it? Yes, because if as a man you can show your wife that you love her, if you can show her that you love her, if you show her that you're willing to be patient, there is that powerful hope that who wants to reject real love? Who wants to really walk away from real love? Who doesn't want love?
Yeah,
it's true.
But you've got to, as a man, as a husband, you've got to broaden your shoulders. You've got to take that stance and say, okay, I see that things have gone wrong, but I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to love you even from a distance.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what you can do or can't do or how you can do it, but you need to maintain that, because sometimes, guys, we're too quick to say, I don't love you. We're too quick to say, oh, I'll just go and meet somebody else. But the truth is, how can your love be tested? How can your love be, pushed to the limit if you don't give it some time?
Yeah,
it's true.
You've got to give it some time. And it sounds weird. How can you know what love is unless you experience some hate?
Well,
you're going to have to experience some hate in order to really define love and be able to give love and to be able to experience love. So even if you feel that what you're getting from your wife is very hateful, it's all it is just a breakdown of communication. It's not hate, it's not disregard, it's not neglect. It's just the fact that the communication is not there.
Yeah.
The love in the relationship is not there. You might feel that you're saying the right thing by saying you don't love them, but don't say things like that.
It's true.
Because don't say things like that. If you can avoid that, I'd encourage you to do so.
Yeah.
Even if it feels like it's falling on deaf ears, you just be patient and be there. And you asked her to marry you. You asked that woman to be a part of your life. Take that responsibility on as well, in terms of you made the first initial step. Let's keep maintaining that. And that's sometimes, as guys, we don't always get that advice from other guys.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, guys can be very we oftentimes we're just too happy to just walk away.
Cut it off.
Yeah, there's plenty more fish in the sea.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We're too happy to put in
the
extra bit of work. Yeah. We're too happy to think, can I change? Should I change? Will I change?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes as guys, it's very easy to say, just keep moving, just keep going. But it's a bad idea, because later you'll realize that, they always say this saying, the grass is greener on the other side. And I've got a friend and she says, but you still got to mow it. You still got to maintain that grass.
Exactly.
You still got to do something. That green grass that you see over there growing nicely, it's because somebody's put time and effort and work into that. And as guys, we've got to put that time and effort and work into our marriage. So yes, even when Esther wasn't there, I still had to maintain for myself that whatever we're going through, no matter how it goes, until it's over then, or until I'm not going to not love her anymore. I'm not going to just stop caring for her. I wasn't going to just stop and just say, okay, you feel this way about me.
Yeah.
No, but that doesn't change the fact that the communication needed to be established.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the fact that something needed to be done. Yeah. But definitely. I want to encourage anybody who's out there, please don't just throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And be mindful of what you say and how you say it. And be true to the fact that you've asked a woman to be with you. So even if she's not with you for whatever reason, just hold your ground.
Powerful.
Yeah, I'm not talking about being stubborn. I'm not talking about just being arrogant. I'm saying maintain that ground in love, where you're not saying hurtful things, you're not going off, you're not saying, well, look what I can do, but you're actually saying, no, I do want to be with you, and I'm going to work at trying to be with you. I'm going to work at actually getting it right. I'm going to work at trying to listen to what you've got to say, and try to find other men who are encouraging you, or who are actually giving you that kind of advice.
It's
good.
true.
That's
it's true.
So good.
Yeah.
See, I have a question. So my thing is, how does someone, because I'm so glad that you kind of like touched on the whole guy thing, because I think a lot of times, like you rightly said, we can be very, very stubborn in terms of like when we have a particular thought, or we have a particular way something should be done, or we just have a perspective which is just, this is it. You know what I mean? How does someone, or how does a guy, essentially based on Ephesians 5, how does a guy submit one to another with his spouse? Because I think sometimes there is that element of headship and feeling like because you are the head of the home, therefore there's kind of a point where, you know, you can't really go beyond this point, because I'm putting my foot down and I'm saying this is what it is. So is there a part where Ephesians 5, I think it's verse 20, where it talks about submitting one to another, is that something that is essentially allowed?
Well, definitely, because if that's the example that Paul was illustrating that Jesus is calling for, then it's clearly something that we not only can do, but that we should do. We should be able to submit to one another, and that shouldn't affect whether we're the head or not, because the things that we are submitting to each other to, that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be in submission to one another. We should be working together. And I do think that there are some calls where it falls to us as the men to do something in particular. There is that, like I'm saying, guys, if you think that your wife is not there and she's going and she's gone, you can be submissive, but by being strong. You can be submissive by showing that love. You can be submissive by saying, I'm going to wait right here.
Wow.
So submission is strength, not weakness. I love that.
A submission is strength. It's, I mean, okay, let's say it from a Christian perspective. God is actually sitting on the throne. Even when we're gone wayward, even when we're completely wild, even when we say we don't want to know him anymore, he still sits on that throne, and it's like he's urging us to return. Yeah, he's just coaxing us back to say, yeah, I'm sitting right here. I've not gone anywhere. I've not, your name's not crossed off anywhere. I'm sitting right here. And that type of submission is, of course, he's God. He could just demand that we return.
That's right.
He could just dispatch angels and bring us back. He can just do that. He can just say, yeah, bring him over here. Bring her over here. But he doesn't. He sits on the throne. And then one day we actually recognize that the communication link between us and the Father is broken, and we need to do something.
Love it.
Absolutely.
So good.
So I do think that the submission is not a weakness. It's probably our greatest strength. But of course, guys need to figure that bit out to say,
exactly.
Does being the head mean that you're just demanding and saying, do this, do that. Or this might sound strange, slightly off a little bit, but when you got things like who's going to wash up or who's going to cook the dinner or who's going to do this or that, personally, I've begun to understand that if I come and there's some dishes in the sink, I'll just wash them.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. There's no point making videos and finding out whose it is and who should do it. And yeah, I've been down that road. Look how messy this all is. You can actually wash those up yourself.
Exactly.
Because the strange thing is the amount of things that God does for us.
Yeah.
The amount of things that God just does.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the messes and all the things that we leave. He just does it. There's no, that type of submission is his greatest strength, because that's what his righteousness is.
That's right. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's what his righteousness is, because he does things that we should do, but we didn't do, but he does it anyway.
Yeah. Come on. Come on.
Until one day we get a hold of doing that. So for me, if I come home, it wouldn't even matter if my wife was sitting in the house, if there wasn't dinner or something, if we wasn't getting a takeaway. If there's something to be cooked, I'm happy to prepare it. I can come home from work and I can cook dinner for my wife and I can put it in a plate and I can present it to her. I can do that.
Whether or not it's good or not.
It might not be tasty, but I can do that.
It's gotten a lot better over the years. It's a lot tastier.
I've progressed from burgers and chips.
You really have.
But, you know, all I'm saying, guys, is that there's lots of things that we can do.
Yeah.
You can take the hard line and say, you expect this and that. And yes, you know what? As we're saying, Siobhan and Ulrich,
yeah.
Right? There are people who've left their wives because the wife didn't present dinner to them when they came home.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay? And they never considered presenting that dinner to their wife. They didn't think of, I could have made that dinner. But instead, it's a very, as Esther said, sometimes things are small things and then they can get out of hand. Right?
That's
they can get out of hand. But in hindsight, could you have made the dinner?
Yeah.
Yes, you could.
Could you have washed up those dishes?
Yeah.
Could you have done something other than walk away?
Yeah.
When we talk about the breakdown in communication, that's the breakdown in communication, that if you're unwilling to think about what you can do or what you could do and what you should do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if somebody else is telling you, she didn't make you your dinner, if that was me, I wouldn't stand for that. You know?
Yeah. It's the wrong.
That's not what love is.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes it can be family, it can be friends, it can be strangers, it could be anyone. But I'd encourage you that anyone who's not trying to open up those lines of communication between you and your husband or your wife, that's probably not a great person to be listening to.
Right.
Definitely.
That's right.
Definitely.
That's right.
Especially if they came to your wedding, especially if they were sitting there when you made the declaration of love to each other.
Yeah.
In particular, they should be inspiring you to say, look, come on, remember what you said?
That's it.
You know, you remember what you said on that day? And that's just the minimum. That's just the bare minimum. When on the day you get married, all the statements that we make, those are just a heads up. Those are just the bare minimum of what you're required and how you're required to love.
Yeah.
That's not the top of the chain. That's the lowest rung.
Whew.
It's true.
It's good. It's good.
Right?
It's good.
So if everyone's encouraging, when you see somebody where lines of communication are faltering, encourage those lines of communication to be opened up if you can.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, if somebody's, instead of, and you know, I'll say it to guys, because we as guys, more so, we need to, you know, if we are feeling that we're the head of the home and you know we're supposed to be in charge, then we need to accept anything that happens in terms of loving unconditionally.
Mm.
Yeah, because I think when you mentioned Ephesians, you talk about, you know, Jesus laying down his life. You know, he was willing to give his life
for his church,
for his bride.
Yeah.
And then as guys, if we then think of it from that perspective, the submission it took for Jesus to go on a cross.
That's right.
That's good.
He's innocent. He's done nothing wrong.
That's right.
He's not to blame, more or less when we've done wrong and we are to blame.
Exactly.
And we are responsible, right?
Yeah.
But yet he actually went to that cross and even accepted being rejected by the Father in our place.
Yeah.
And he took on that role, that responsibility. So I'm saying in reflection, if we are to be like Christ, who loved the church and gave his life for it, our wives, we've definitely, as guys, we've got to not just pull our weight, but we've got to be prepared to lay our lives down to make that work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that to make it work is going to take skills. It's going to take all kinds of things. But as you said, the communication, you're going to have to start there.
Yeah, and I think it's something that you continually work at.
Always.
And you don't just take each other for granted. There's things I'm stronger in our relationship about, and there's things that Alf is stronger about, but it's not a case of throwing it in each other's faces. It's a case of celebrating those strengths and making up for where it's weak, you know, and it's a balance. We help each other. We're going through this journey together. We're one. And, you know, we have the added benefit that we are believers. We believe that, you know, God our Father, he loves us, that Jesus is our great example, and he's left his word for us. And, you know, he hasn't left us comfortless or powerless. He's embodied us with his Holy Spirit. So Holy Spirit comes with all the gifts and all the talents and everything we could possibly need in this world in order to live a holy, honorable life, not only to God, but to each other and to our children.
Yeah.
100%.
Powerful,
100%.
powerful. You guys, you just shot out about 16 like posts that we would be like, yeah, and these are like buzzwords, they're key nuggets, they are gems.
Definitely.
I loved, so just going back, I loved what you shared about how when you were separated, the way, the posture that you took. The posture that you took wasn't, it's over, it's done, tell the world on social media, I gave back the ring, I cussed him out, it's never going to come back. That wasn't it. You actually, even in the light of the family, because that's the hardest thing, it's those who are closest. When they're looking out, they're on the outward looking in. What you didn't allow them to see or hear was, the dirty laundry, yes, and this and that. You didn't go there, and that protected your marriage, so that the good Lord has brought the two of you back together. You don't have to worry about, well, this person knows your business and that person's looking at you like, she took that back, or he took her back. There's none of that, because they're not in the bed, they're not in your business, they have no business knowing what took place. And I think the sanctity of our marriages, sometimes the boundaries get broken down when the communication breaks down. And we forget that, no, I said that I would honor this person. Like what you said, Alf, these are the words, the vows I committed to. And so I love what you said about, you know, like not throwing the towel in with your words, because words are to build up. The Bible says that you wash your wife with the word. So rather than you looking at it from a stance of, you know, I never liked that, or you didn't allow, and our words, our communication is so powerful. If you haven't learned how to communicate in love, because you're hurt, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth, out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks. So what can be coming out is that pain. And what can cripple when you're in conflict is saying the wrong thing. And if you're in a conflict to the state that you're at now, a separation, the breakdown is so severe that you're at a separation point, what you end up doing is ruining or making it so much harder to now come back together. So I love the fact that you're actually imploring people to say, look, as tempting as it is,
don't do it.
Don't do it. It makes it harder. And one of the things that we shared a couple of weeks ago in our live was when you say the wrong thing, it makes it harder for the person to come back and submit to you. And wives, your husbands, and husbands submitting to your wives, it makes it harder because it was all too easy for you to cuss me out a couple of weeks ago. It was all too easy for you to tell me about myself a little while ago. What's to say that I can trust you now with a new thing? Can I come to you with something deeper or something bigger or something painful? Will I trust you that's not going to come up in a week or so when you're upset with me? I think these are such powerful gems. Like I love the fact that we can learn. I know that what you guys went through was extremely painful and difficult, but what's come out of it is such amazing tools and wisdom and instructions to help people like us. I mean, this September, we're 11 years in. So we've gone a fair way, but when you guys have got a couple more decades on us, but at the same time, we're still learning. We're still making our mistakes. Yes, we're not at the same space that we were at when we were the first year in, but we're still learning how to not carry last year's long list of what we talked about, not bringing it into this year or whatever. We've got our issues that we're working through, but I'm learning so much from what you guys are sharing, and I think it's so powerful. And we would definitely be sure to carry these gems.
I just add one little bit? I think for me, because like the shocking news when people heard Alf and Esther not together, for me, I lost hope. I lost hope because it felt it was too hard. It was taking too long. And I just absolutely just let go. I just lost hope. And it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. We had gone through so many far more difficult things before. And this was just a small thing that set this off. And I couldn't let it go. And I just was like, that's it. I've had enough. And yet for Alf, I think that was the moment he began to hold on to hope.
Wow.
He began to hope again. He began to look at what we had, understanding and knowing that it's not the end. It might not feel nice. It might not be nice, but what we've got is something good and something solid. And it was worth pursuing in the right way in order to hold on to it.
Praise God. Wow, that's powerful.
Sorry, I just, because the minute I hear you say that, all I hear is believing in love again.
Come on.
Where you were like, I can't do this anymore. I'm the hope.
I'm done.
The hope was in tatters, basically. And then where the hope was so low for you, Alf, you were like, no, I'll dig deeper. That's when it kicked in. And I love it. I guess what we need to hear from you guys is, how did you come back? So we know that there was the separation. How did you begin to bridge the gap? How did you begin to
believe in love again?
Exactly.
Communication. Literally.
Yeah, that's what was true. Communication.
I didn't want to talk to him, didn't want to be wherever he was. If someone had invited us and said, well, Alf's going to be there, I was like, well, then I won't go.
Wow.
No particular reason. I just didn't want to have a conversation. And once that conversation started, then that was it.
Yeah. I think the whole thing about communication is that no matter how small it is, you just got to take each step as it comes and keep moving forward. Keep that's how we started talking. And then we got to go out, we got to do this, we got to do that. And then bit by bit, that's the point, isn't it?
And even when it was our 20th wedding, our 20th anniversary, we were not together, but Alf invited me to come out on the picnic. And it was a nice day and everything. And I didn't say no, and I didn't go. But I think we went out later on for dinner or something. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we did have, I mean, I know time is short for you, but obviously we can always share as we get a chance. But yes, even when Esther was sort of saying even I tried to approach her and she wasn't
I was giving him the cold shoulder.
She definitely gave me the cold shoulder. You know, it was very icy. But ultimately, I'd made up in my mind that it doesn't matter how cold she's gonna be. I'm gonna maintain that love. I'm gonna continue to reach out to her. And that's the best thing to do. Yeah, because some of that coldness, like I say, I think you have to experience some kind of hate in order to appreciate love, to know what love is. I'm not encouraging anybody to hate anyone. I'm not encouraging anybody to go out and experience. But I'm saying, how do you know the love that you have for someone unless it feels like it's not being returned? It feels like nothing's happening back. How do you know what your limits are? Yeah, how do you know when you can just say, Lord, I need you now to really just prop me up?
Yeah,
definitely.
So good.
It's
definitely
different when everything's going the way you want it to go. But when it isn't going the way you want it to go, that's when you really need to step up and love.
100%.
Even when it's a complete ice age. You need to say, yeah, definitely, I need the heat.
Bring the heat back,
some heat.
Get heat on.
You need your thermals. Yeah, you need the heat on you, because you know there is no heat, so you're gonna have to find it.
This is it. You got,
Yeah. And as I said, it's the communication.
Definitely.
It doesn't matter if you think the communication is being rejected or pushed down. Just keep trying to communicate.
Yeah. It's good. So good.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah. guys, you guys that are listening, if you ain't listening, I don't know what is wrong, because what these guys have just shared is just so powerful. Because I think that's what we love about, connecting with particular couples because one of the things that we, Alf and Esther, what we're always trying to encourage people about is the reality of marriage.
Yeah.
Because I think so much so in this generation, people have a perspective that marriage is all roses.
Yeah.
And we are continually trying to show people the areas that we have struggled with.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that we can help people to navigate through those struggles, because you're gonna go through it. Do you understand?
Of course you are.
The moment you decide to partner with someone, to be one with someone, there are going to be clashes, there are going to be sparks, and they're going to fly. And when they fly, you need to know, you need to be grounded first of all, but you need to know how to navigate some of these things, because sometimes they come and we're not even expecting it.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And they come sometimes when we're already low. Do you understand? And then how do you pick yourself back up?
Yeah.
So, and I'm so glad that you guys have shared from that perspective of even being separated and then coming back, because these are real things, and a lot of times pride tends to speak louder than love. And I'm so glad that you really pushed that point today, Alf, because loving even when you don't want to, because sometimes we default to loving because we feel good. But love is a decision. It's not, it doesn't necessarily always come with butterflies, because the act of greatest love act was crucifixion.
Yes.
So even if we were going to take it there, it's like you have to understand that it's done sometimes out of pain.
Yeah.
Or whilst you're in pain.
That's good. That's
you know? So yeah, I think that is powerful. And all of you that are listening, break down in communication. The way that you get out of the breakdown of communication is to communicate. So the antidote is in the problem.
Definitely
in the problem. There's a breakdown in communication. You need to communicate to get rid of the break.
Yeah. Can I just say, I'm so sorry. Like, I know I've been listening so intently, but I have to say, guys, your story is so romantic, and I know that sounds like it's the worst thing. It's so romantic when I share that. I just think hearing, okay, cool, so things broke down and it got to a really low place, but the pursuit of love, the pursuit of your marriage, the decision to say we're not giving up, we're not turning back, we're going to go after this thing, it can come back. Those dry bones, however bad it got, it still could have meat on the bone, it could still live. It sounds like such a resurrection, it sounds like a resurgence. And I just think the decision to say, as icy as the cold shoulder was, I'm not going to take it to heart, I'm going to shrug it off. I think if we had that stance in our marriages before we got to this is so low, it's broken down, but okay, he snapped at me today, I'm going to shrug it off. That just, it inspires me to think, am I looking at love in the right way?
It's so true.
Am I approaching my marriage from the stance of, I'm pursuing you, I'm pursuing this love, I am fervently, hungrily going after it? I just think
amazing.
It's amazing. And to hear that you guys were about to celebrate your 20th anniversary, and you were in separation, and 32
that's powerful
years or 31 years of marriage later, or 10 years, 11 years of marriage later, you're back. You're about to celebrate your 31st. And I just think that's amazing. That's God.
That's the perfect story, man.
That's a beautiful story.
Definitely.
I don't know if you guys have made a movie about it or written a book or something, but
you need to write or do something.
Read it.
We do our fair share of talking to people and encouraging
them.
Amazing. But guys, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you guys
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure.
Amazing. Cool, man. All right, guys. So as we do, thank you guys for watching. We really, really appreciate you. You could have been watching Netflix, you could have been watching Disney or Prime, but you decided to stay with us tonight, and we're always appreciative.
Yes, we are.
So yeah, as we normally do, please follow us on our social media platforms, which is just To Love Collective. Those of you obviously who are watching us today on YouTube, please like this video and to subscribe to our channel so that you get a notification the next time that we go live.
And share it.
Definitely
share it with your friends, your loved ones,
share
people
it.
who you know may be going through. Just drop a little link. You don't even have to send a message with it. Just drop the link and they'll be like, what's that?
Exactly. 100%. But guys, yes, we're gonna be here. I was gonna say bright and early, but we're gonna be here next week, Tuesday at 9 p.m. for another topic. Don't know where we're gonna go.
Yes,
because when we got into this this series, we were just like, Lord, you just need to lead us each week. So I can't even say what next week is gonna be, but I know it's gonna be something that's gonna be thought-provoking, and some sort of tool to help you be better in your relationships and to win in your relationships. So guys, good night and thank you very much.
Blessings.
Take care. God bless.